Yo, what is up? It is Rowdy HQ with another first round 2023 NFL mock draft. We're less than a week out from the actual draft. So I'm excited. Hopefully, this holds y'all over till next Thursday. Let's just get straight into it. A lot of things have changed since my last mock draft from a few weeks ago. Not too many things, but regarding the top of the draft, a lot of things have changed, which ultimately makes the subsequent picks change. So, with the first overall pick, I'm hearing now that the lock is basically Bryce Young. I've been saying Bryce Young since the beginning of the season. I think that this guy's going to be a stud. I don't want to hash on it too much because you've probably seen the media. I don't really know what the S2 test is. Like, I don't know what's on it, but apparently he aced it or did really well on it. But outside of that, just watching the guy play, I really only think this guy's weakness is his size. And I've said at quarterback, that's not my main determining factor because you're not trying to beat people up. You're not physically manhandling people in one-on-one matchups like on the D line and O line. I think this guy's got adequate arm strength. The accuracy's there. More importantly, I think this guy's advanced mentally. That's what you look at for a quarterback. And I think he's produced at every level. Not much to say. I think that this guy has Hall of Fame potential. I don't want to put that much pressure on him, but I'll say that I'll be shocked if he's a bust. So, number two, this is where things get interesting because CJ Stroud a few months ago was people had him to the Panthers at one, but now some things are coming out about he's, I guess, difficult to coach. He performed poorly on the S2 test. I don't know if I want to read too much into this stuff because this is me in general with sports. I'm not a fan of anonymous sources in sports because I don't think sports is that serious. I don't think I think anonymous sources only belong in cases where like you have serious news. I get people want to keep their jobs, but even then, I think it's so easy to take what some random exec says and then put it online and everyone believes it. Maybe I mean I get some of the concerns with CJ Stroud, like he wasn't always consistent and the Ohio State QB stereotype, but I've said before, I think he's far and away the best prospect at QB Ohio State's ever put out. Consistently had great passing numbers, and this is going to be the trade. The one of the knocks is that outside of structure or whatever, he's going to fail, or if he doesn't have his weapons. But this is what I'm going to project, and this says trades, by the way. I'm gonna have the Texans trading with the Raiders to the Texans will give up the second pick this year in like a middle. This is the beginning of the fourth. 104 is like at the top of the fourth round. And in return, they're going to get Las Vegas's seventh pick this year. And then they're going to get a first round pick next year. So to dive into why I think this is a good deal, regarding the Vegas side, I'll start with them. I'm going to pick CJ Stroud, by the way. They have weapons, okay? They got Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow for another year. They lost Darren Waller, but I think they signed another receiver. I didn't see. Maybe Jacoby Myers from the Patriots. I think that was it. I'm not sure though. They got Josh Jacobs back on another year. The O line needs help badly, but I wouldn't be surprised if they like attacked it in multiple ways throughout the rest of the draft. And this is why I think this trade makes sense. Josh McDaniels, I think, is coaching for his job this year. Okay. So I don't think he needs to worry about prospects for next year. I don't think he needs to worry about Caleb Williams. I don't think he needs to worry about Drake May. CJ Stroud, out of the remaining QBs, I think is the most ready for the NFL, even though I don't think he's a perfect prospect. But I think this situation makes sense because the O line's bad, which I don't really think he's that mobile, but the weapons are there. He's not going to be left hanging in terms of people getting open. Adams is a Hall of Fame caliber player. I think Hunter Renfrow will bounce back because he was injured a lot last year. Josh Jacobs had a resurgence. Get some O line, maybe in free agency. I don't know what it looks like, but get some O linemen in the rest of the draft. Maybe don't attack defense this year. I mean, I don't think that this team is going to be great next year, but Josh McDaniels, I think this is it. His history as a coach is just not good. So get a guy that you could drop in like week. I don't know. I mean, they have Jimmy G. I forgot about that, but there it goes. I forgot about Jimmy G. Jimmy G is not the answer to this team. I think he's a great backup to like mid-level starter. Maybe he starts like the first quarter of the season. CJ Stroud learns, goes in. Like I said, they have weapons and the weapons are getting older. And Adams, maybe he asked for a trade. So got to keep him happy. I don't want to go on too much. CJ Stroud, I just think it makes sense. And if he's bad, I mean, that's another thing. If he's bad year one, he's there for the rest of his rookie contract. So I like CJ Stroud. I need to see to believe regarding the criticisms like poor coaching. I don't know. I want to see him play. So I think this is a good pick. Regarding the Texans side, they don't like CJ Stroud from what I've heard, and it makes sense because same agent as Watson. So, and DeMeco Ryan to the defensive minded head coach. I have some issues with defensive minded coaches when it comes to drafting early, but I've heard they're high on Tyree Wilson. They could probably trade on a bit to get him, and they get a first for next year. So they will have like 3 first-round picks next year. And if they're not the worst team, they could trade like 5 or like 4 first-round picks to get Caleb Williams because they'll have 2 extra next year, trade 2 down the line, or however many they got from the Cleveland. So you have a bunch of assets in the future. I don't think that this team is going to be good next year. I think that the defense is at least the secondary is heading in the right direction. I've liked some of the picks they've had recently. The O-line's decent. I don't think Davis Mills is the answer, but yeah, just get draft capital. If you're not going to take CJ Stroud, trade down. And one more thing, this is what happens when you win at the end of the season. I'm not like pro tanking, but I think that this narrative that like tanking is, I mean, no one wants to tank, but here, I don't want to rant too much, but I'm a Mavs fan. Okay. We were bad this year. Our defense was terrible. This is what makes sense. Our defense was trash. None of our stars really gave a crap. And at the end of the season, it wasn't looking good. We were going to have to go through the play in like the 10th spot too. So we're going to have to win 2 elimination games. And so we threw against the Bulls in the last game of the season. And the whole media was going on this like fake outrage thing. I don't want to sound like a political head, but they were going on like this fake outrage about how we hurt the integrity of the sport, all this, all that. Not only have other teams tanked, albeit not as blatantly, that we have an 80% chance to keep our first round pick or our top 10 protected pick. If we made the play-in, we were going to lose that pick to the Knicks, basically. Yes, it's still a gamble, but what would people be saying if we made the play-in? We lost like badly in the first play-in game, and then we didn't have our pick. We're stuck at square one. No one's commending us for trying. That's the thing. No one is commending the Texans now for beating the Colts in the final game of the season. No one's going on about how valiantly they beat the division rival. Yeah, y'all lost the first overall pick. I don't think that was smart. They probably should have fired Lovey before that game, so that didn't happen. That's the thing. It's a battle versus war philosophy. They won the battle, they lost the war. So get the picks, recover from that. I'm not a fan of, winning needless games. I've already ranted on way too long about that, but I'll get to the Texans in a little bit. Number 3, I made this pick in the last draft. Will Anderson, I don't think he's the best defensive prospect in terms of talent, but I think he's the safest. And he has the tools to be great. I'm not as high on him as the other people. Like he kind of was a letdown this season because his sophomore year was just so awesome. But athletically, he's gifted. He's good against the run. So I think he's safe in that regard. Like if he's not getting the pass rush done, I still think he can contribute. There's a lot of projects in terms of pass rushers this year. I think he's the best of them. He's my edge one. Safe pick. More importantly, this team needs direction. This team is not in a good spot right now in terms of leadership. I think he'll come in as a captain. I've seen other people say that. what's his name? I can't believe I'm blanking on it. Coach of Bama. Nick Saban had held him in high regard. So, I mean, of course, you got to take that with a grain of salt because he wants everyone to succeed, but he's got the tools. He's not, I don't know if he'll work as like a 4-3 end, maybe more as a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he's got strength, he's got burst. Maybe want to see a little more tool usage, maybe a little more bend. He did get shut down a little bit, but like I said, edge is good. It's probably the most important position on the field. Makes sense here. Number 4, Anthony Richard, or what? I don't know why. The Colts will take Anthony Richardson. Kind of just blanked out there. Maybe a bit of a reach because this guy is a super project, but I think you need to hold him into the same regard as Josh Allen. Then I wasn't really scouting players when Josh Allen was picked, so I don't know if like scouts saw advanced mental capabilities or like processing with him because he's developed into a stud. But Anthony Richardson, from an athlete standpoint, is a freak. He's close to running a sub 4.4. He's basically got the same build as Josh Allen. If this guy can't get the job done passing in the NFL, he's going to get it done running for like 5 years at least before his body breaks down if he's physical. This guy's got a cannon of an arm. The accuracy was inconsistent, but like I've said in the last time, when he's accurate, he makes wow throws on the money downfield, 40 yards. So if this guy can hone in his accuracy and develop like the processing side, he probably has the most upside of anyone in this draft. And if the Colts are bad, just get Caleb Williams next year because I don't know if their quarterback's bad, if they're going to be doing anything because I think their defense regressed a bit. But Anthony Richardson at 4, take the risk. That the quarterback is one position I'm willing to take a risk on because if they're that bad, then you can just go get another quarterback next year. Like the Cardinals did that with Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray, and I don't think they regret that decision because I think Kyler's been pretty good. So number 5, I have the Seahawks taking Jalen Carter. I've seen people say he might drop, but I don't think he's going to drop that much because from a talent perspective, he might be the most talented player in this draft. If this guy can just put it together, I mean, he already produced at Georgia, but if this guy can just, put his issues behind him, I think that this guy's going to be a freak. I mean, maybe he has Aaron Donald potential. That's high praise, but I mean, this guy truly is gifted as an athlete. Like I said, the production's also been there to a certain extent. Maybe he didn't have gaudy numbers this year, but not much more to say. You're picking top 5. Go get the talent. Risky maybe to an extent, but he's good. He is really good. Don't get fancy and try to let him drop to you at another pick. Just take the talent. At number 6, last time I drafted, I was lower on the cornerbacks, but I got Dane Brugler's beast thing, so I read it. Christian Gonzalez, from the tape I've seen and what I've read, I think he's the best combination of just talent, at like athleticism and production. Like he had great stats this year at Oregon. He ran sub 4.4. The one knock I've seen people have on him is physicality. So maybe he can bulk up a bit. I don't really I'm not into like nutrition and stuff like that. So I don't know like a body type that can develop size versus a body type that can't. But he's probably the safest cornerback prospect in this class. The Lions traded Jeff Okudah, who was probably one of the worst busts in recent memory, to Atlanta. So you need cornerback help desperately. This team needs to make the playoffs this year because Dan Campbell's raw stuff I think can only go so long. I don't know why I'm so much more negative this time around, but I think it's true. Like the Lions for the past 2 years have like started off terribly and then gotten hot at the end of the season, but it's been a little too late. So we need to stop with like the Pyrrhic victories or the Pyrrhic victories, the moral victories. That's probably the better term. I don't want to get too fancy. My lingo, I make myself look stupid. But yeah, the Lions need to make the playoffs this year. I don't think the North is going to be as good as it was last year. So Lions got to help the secondary out, make sure the defense is good. Christian Gonzalez, great place to start. Good cornerback. I think he's pretty safe. he looked natural from what I saw, and I like that at cornerback. Number 7, Texans still get their supposed guy. They've been connected to Tyree Wilson a lot, and maybe he doesn't drop this far. The Seahawks or Lions there's a good chance they'd get him if the Texans drop to 7, snag him before he gets there. But yeah, from what I've seen the tape, this guy's got an immense bull rush, got the freakish arm length to develop. So I think there's a lot of risk with pass rush, but when you take pass rush early, I think that's generally the safest spot to take it. Like a lot of the premier pass rushers in the NFL were taken early. I don't think this is a position where you want to try to get some steal in day 2 or 3. Get the talent. This guy's got the build. He's got the freakish arm length. Let him develop. The Texans do need a little bit of pass rush help. Like I said, I think that their secondary. I like the picks they made with Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie. Get help. This team, I don't think they're expecting to do anything much next year. D'Amico Ryans likes defense, I'd assume, because he's he was a defensive coordinator. Seeing Tyree Wilson's name here makes sense to me. Good talent. At number 8, Nolan Smith. The production doesn't match the 8th overall pick, but everything I've heard about this guy, at the very least, I think he'll be a solid NFL player. Like if he doesn't make Pro Bowls, then fine. But good run defender. He's developing as a pass rusher. We all saw the sub 4.40, so that people are going to be reminded of Micah Parsons in that respect. They need pass rush help. They got Calais Campbell from the Ravens, but they've actually gotten a lot of players like Jesse Bates. So I think they're going to win now. Get a pass rusher. He's not going to be there in the second round, clearly. He's going to probably go earlier than some people have him because he kind of jumped early, or he's jumped recently just because of the freakish athleticism. I've heard that he's a great guy, captain, so you always love that. Number 8, I think he's a safe pick like I said, maybe not like a 10 sack plus guy a year, not like a perennial Pro Bowl or all pro, but you can always use pass rush. They need pass rush. He's got good leadership there already. You can take him at 8. Number 9, oh, by the way, for the Falcons, with Desmond Ridder, like I don't know if he's the guy. So maybe they take a quarterback here. I would worry about that next year, to be honest, because if he's bad, then I still don't think this team's going to be great. They'll be mid. So you can trade up next year, get a good talent. All right, on to the Bears. I think this guy is not maybe for everybody because there's debates about whether he's a guard or tackle, but I think he's the best lineman overall in the class. I'm a technique guy when it comes to O-line. I'm actually just a technique guy when it comes to the NFL in general. Which is kind of funny because the Cowboys like to draft for like talent and upside, because I wasn't a big fan of the Micah pick, and Tyler Smith kind of caught me off guard, but they both developed well. So part of that I also think is high character leads to higher success, but that's a whole nother debate. I don't want to get off topic. But regarding Peter Skoronski, try him at tackle, doesn't work, put him at guard, put him wherever. This team needs to protect Justin Fields because with his style of play, I think he's more susceptible to getting injured. Don't let him get destroyed. You want to see if he's the guy this year because he's in year 3. This is about the point where we see whether people have got it or not. Give him help. Peter Skoronski, best O lineman, not the most physically dominant, but he's a good run lineman. Technique wise, Rashawn Slater, I think, makes Northwestern an appealing place to draft at it because clearly they're doing something right, or they're starting to do something right. Maybe Paris Johnson goes here, but regardless, I think O-line makes sense here. O-line or receiver, because don't go defense too much. I want to see if Justin Fields is the guy. You've invested too much. Number 10, I've seen this guy drop a lot. I feel like he's been forgotten a bit, but Myles Murphy, it's who I picked for the Eagles last time. I'm high on this guy. The production wasn't there. In fact, the production for like most of the edge / like D linemen this year, it wasn't very high. So I think a lot of these people are more prospect oriented or, trade oriented. But I like Miles Murphy. This guy's super strong. I think he has the build to play inside in certain formations as well as playing outside. Some Eagles fans might not like this pick because they already have the D line set basically for now. But Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, I keep saying it, you can only sign them to 1 year deals for so long before they get old. You know, you don't want to wait till they decline because this team's in win now mode. And another thing, too, Jordan Davis, even though I think he's definitely worth it as like a role player, he's not a 3 down person. So I think you could rotate him and Miles Murphy inside whenever you're like stopping the pass versus stopping the run. You can also kick them outside, get 5 D linemen in certain plays. So I'm not a big fan of drafting for depth in the first round because I want day one starters most oftentimes, but I think he fits here. He's talented. He's going to go under the tutelage of some Hall of Fame / Pro Bowl players. He can also play alongside them. The Eagles love their D linemen. They're great at developing them. I like this pick. And I don't want to keep harping on it because I'm going to sound like a biased Cowboys fan. I don't think that this defense was, I think they were a little overrated last year. We saw in the Super Bowl, they couldn't really stop Patrick Mahomes. And we've seen in the past, you got to get to him. You got to blitz him, rush him, whatever. Just get to him in the pass rush instance. So Miles Murphy, that's the best way to do it because you're going to be playing Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl for years to come if you keep making Super Bowls. Number 11, they could go a whole slew of ways on offense, but I'm going to have them take Paris Johnson, who's arguably the best tackle in the class. High character to start from everything I've seen. I think this guy's going to be a great captain. They lost Taylor Lewan, but, you know, we're not always drafting for characteristics or like character. So this guy's probably the most athletic tackle in the draft. I think he's just the most balanced. Like I said earlier, I don't know if this guy is like the wow factor to be like a all pro, like perennial Trent Williams, but you need a left tackle. You need O-line help in general, I think. This team is not going in the right direction. O-line is always a safe pick. I think teams neglect O-line too much. You can't always have a good enough O-line, in my opinion, because the O-line makes the entirety of the offense better. It makes the QB better. It makes the receiver better. It makes the running back better. A running back is not going to make a QB better without a good O-line, in my opinion. So get the good tackle, the safe tackle. Maybe not a perfect prospect, but the athleticism's there. The strength is there. The size is there. Just a safe build wise. You're not going to have to worry about, I don't think, scheme with this guy. I just think he's an overall good prospect. At number 12, this is going to be a shocker, and I don't think Texans fans are going to like this, but I'm going to have them take Will Levis because like I did earlier, they have 3 first-round picks next year. They might have another one with Cleveland in the year after. I'm not sure if they gave up 2 or 3. And then after that, they'll have like all their first-round picks alongside all their other picks. So if Will Levis is bad this year, just go get Caleb Williams next year, Drake May. But at 12, why not take a shot? I think that this guy has the work ethic to be good. Of course, the mental processing is not there yet, but get him some weapons. They already have decent weapons with like John Mechie coming back. I think he'll be good. Dameon Pierce, they need to get a lot of other receivers in this draft or go get people. They can't just go offense here and then defensive like the rest of the time. DeMeco Ryans will have to address the offense heavily if they go Will Levis, but the O-line's decent. The running back, Dameon Pierce, is good. Get him help. Let's see if Will Levis is the guy. If he shows a lot of potential, then you have 3 first-round picks next year. So guess what, baby? You can go get Marvin Harrison, Brock Bowers, and like an O-lineman. To me, if that, like, honestly, if Will Levis has like a Josh Allen type season, rookie year, where it was pretty rough, but you saw upside or glimpses of potential, and then because he's got the traits. He's not like a Josh Allen build, but in terms of traits and arm talent and stuff like that, he's got it, and he's got the work ethic from what I've seen. He's a good captain, so if this guy's bad, I think you just don't. I'm ranting. I'm going random here, but I guess what I'm getting at is if he is bad this year, then he's probably not the guy because he's going to work for it. Okay, you want someone that's going to work for it because if you take a quarterback that's lazy, then you're always banking on them like, oh, but what if he gets good? But he's so talented. We drafted him so high. I don't know if this makes sense to viewers, but whatever, regardless, if Will Levis shows potential, you have 3 first-round picks that are going to be high probably next year. So get Marvin Harrison, get Brock Bowers, and then next year Will Levis will win an MVP if he shows potential with those weapons, because that will be ridiculous at that point. So go get Will Levis. If he sucks, just go get Caleb Williams next year. I went totally random there. Sorry if that didn't make sense. At number 13, I'm going to have the Jets go Broderick Jones. I think I'm higher on this guy than other people. Maybe not a perfect prospect, but George has been a solid foundation for tight end or O-lineman, tackles specifically. So that he's getting coached up. That he's dealt with other talented O-linemen like Jamari Salyer. Probably had good tutelage from his teammates as well. And he didn't let up a sack for a 2-time championship team. At least he didn't let up a sack this year from what I saw. So maybe a bit of a reach, but I like him as a left tackle. Just try him there. If he doesn't work, try him somewhere else at right tackle, because the O-line, I think, held this team back. I know that Zach Wilson was horrible, but the O-line didn't help anyone out. They have good receivers. They're going to get Aaron Rodgers at some point, and you want to keep him protected because he's not the same lumber guy he was once. Got to keep him up. I think if they get Rodgers, they're going to go for a Super Bowl run, clearly. So you need to get the O-line situated with him. That's obvious, in my opinion. And I think this guy's a good athlete, and I think you could play him at guard if he doesn't work out. But O-line makes sense here. Always go O-line early. That's my motto. So someone in the comments last time told me that the tight end was a bad pick. And in hindsight, that kind of makes sense because I forgot that they got Mike Gesicki, even though I think Michael Mayer is going to be a stud. But they do have 2 tight ends right now. So I'm going to give them a player that I think should go earlier because I'm a route believer when it comes to receivers. I think route running is what makes people safe prospects at the very least. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think that this guy's going to be a stud in the NFL because I think people were worrying too much about the 40 time and they need to be looking at the 3-cone stuff. I think that's what makes a difference because in the NFL, you're not going to be running in straight lines for most of the time. Okay. That's where I think that the combine's unrealistic. 3-cone, though, you're going to be moving quickly in different directions in short space, though, against DBs and navigating traffic. That, I think, translates. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think, in that regard, is going to be a stud. Both of his receiver teammates from last year said he was the best. I'm going to take their word for it. And Garrett Wilson was the rookie of the year, and Chris Olave was a beast, too. Take a guy that's the most likely to be a number 1 because I don't know if Mac Jones is the guy. I don't know if Bailey Zappi's the guy, and I don't think Bill Belichick is guaranteeing them that either of them is going to be the guy in the future. So safe pick here. It makes sense. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba should go earlier, to be honest. But yeah, they need receiver help badly. They need offense help badly everywhere. Number 15. Stinks that Rodgers is going to leave and then they're going to start going offense. But Michael Mayer, this is another guy I'm higher on than I think most people. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's another Jason Witten. This is not his era. He's slow. He doesn't get open. He's an old style tight end. You're telling me that you wouldn't take Jason Witten anywhere in the first round. Okay. I would take him at number 1 if the draft is like, if the draft turns out to be like a bust, and I know in hindsight it's filled with bust, I'm taking Jason Witten number 1 because that's like second all-time in receptions or something like that. Like his stat line's crazy. He was consistent for the Cowboys. Michael Mayer, you're not going to have to worry about him coming off the field because he can block, he can get open. He was clutch for Notre Dame. He was basically their only option. Or only like service. I don't want to say serviceable, but he was their only consistent option for the better half of like 2 years. So this guy might not have the craziest stats in the NFL at the tight ends position, but if you give me 1,000 yards, 80 receptions, 10 touchdowns, and great blocking, I'm taking that with my tight end because I need my tight ends to block. Because at that point, you're just taking a glorified receiver. They can't block. Number 16, I don't know if Washington fans are going to like this one necessarily, but I think this makes sense. Devon Witherspoon. I was thinking about this pick because I've had a hard time putting someone here, but the final game of the season, they destroyed the Cowboys offense in particular. And the thing I noticed is that the DBs were super physical. They were not letting anyone get open because Dak was throwing it to receivers and the balls were getting batted down. Devon Witherspoon, he's a physical guy. He's not the biggest guy, but he plays bigger than he is because he's not like 200, but he's physical. And I think that Washington could use a potential CB1 because the D line is one of the best in the league. Linebacker core is okay. But if you gave them like a shutdown corner potentially, we're looking at like a top 3 defense in the NFL. And I think that's how they're going to win in the division because I don't know if their offense is quite to the level of the Eagles. So let's get defensive. I know they've taken a lot of defensive players recently, so some fans might be not fans of this, but I think this is a good talent steal. Maybe not the most versatile corner, but the whole grabby argument, I don't think that's held up in the NFL because they said the same thing about Sauce Gardner. He's not as good of a prospect as Sauce, but I think that can be taught out of him because I'd rather have a cornerback be aggressive than timid and just getting cooked by not touching or pressing receivers. So Devon Witherspoon makes sense. Bijan would make sense too, but CB is a valuable position. I think he fits the style of play here. They want to be physical. So 16, I like this pick. 17, another cornerback. I've seen him drop a bit because I've seen some people say that outside of a press style, he's not going to work. But I think I picked him here last time. It's an obvious pick because people are going to say, oh, his dad played here, but Joey Porter's a good player at a valuable position. This defense, I think, underachieved in part because I think they can get burned outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick. And you got to help the D-line out too. The D-line will help the cornerbacks out, of course. It's a great D-line in terms of rushing the passer, but you got to stop the downfield throw too. So Joey Porter, I think that this could put this defense in another tier if they get a pair of good secondary alongside a good front seven. So this is a on the nose pick, but I like it. He's physical. I think he's got good athleticism, maybe a little stiff, but he's physical. I like that in corners. I'd rather have them be physical than not physical, just off coverage, not getting in people's faces. That's the thing with Diggs. I love it when Diggs is getting on people or pressing people. I'm not a fan of Diggs when he's playing off coverage because it seems like they're always throwing to his side when they're doing that. So I like Joey Porter's style of play. The lineage makes sense. I like players whose dads play because I think it's good teaching. They've been taught their whole life, basically. So Joey Porter at 17 of the Steelers. Number 18, I think this is going to be a shock to some fans, but in recent light, I think that this is actually a good pick and maybe an essential pick. Quentin Johnston to the Lions at 18. They've lost a lot of offensive players. I know that TJ Hawkinson wasn't I don't think he lived up to the hype of where he was picked, but he was still a good player. They lost DJ Chark, which I'm kind of surprised. I thought they'd bring him back because he was good at the end of the season. He was injured a lot, but he helped him, especially in that last game against the Packers. Jamal Williams, maybe a bit overrated, maybe a bit more of a product due to the O-line being so dominant, but that's a locker room presence you lost. That's another good player you lost. And Jameson Williams getting suspended 6 games now. He didn't do much last season, but outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't really think they have anybody. So get a player that can play outside, play off of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He can be more of like the slot, get open guy. while Quentin Johnston can be the downfield threat in the meantime till Jameson Williams gets back. I know his style of play doesn't really fit his like mold because he plays smaller than he is, but I think a little too many people are hating on him. Yeah, he's a Big 12 receiver, but and the fact that he didn't get invited to the draft, people were saying that that's a sign that the NFL fears he's going to go outside of the first round or he's not going to go early. So they wanted to save him the awkwardness. But I like the pick here. I'm higher on him than others. Even if he's not like a number one, I think he could be that number two role of the Mike Williams. He gets open downfield, great ball skills, in my opinion. He's pretty good after the catch, surprisingly. So if he's like not good at route running in the beginning, you could use him in like screens and like slant stuff to get open. Uses run after catch ability. So they need receiver help. I think it's a sneaky need now, knowing that they've lost all these guys, as some due to suspension. So in the meantime, I don't think Jared Goff's going to get the job done with one receiver. So Quentin Johnston. They could go another receiver here too. Regardless, I think this needs to be a skill player. 19, I've seen Bijan here. I have better value. Darnell Wright. I was talking with my friend who's a Bucks fan, and they cut Donovan Smith, who I think that's the right move because I think he was overpaid. Tristan Wirfs should have probably been playing left tackle day one. Maybe he's not as good at left tackle as he is right tackle, but he did play it at Iowa. And with talent like that, like he's already a first team All Pro member. Put him at left tackle. Like I think talent trumps all at a certain point. He's clearly talented. He was clearly the best tackle from that draft. But put Darnell Wright at right tackle, where I think he's natural. I mean, we saw at Tennessee, Will Anderson said he was the best player he went against in terms of like O lineman. So I like his physicality. He was good for one of the best offenses this year. I think his size suits him at right tackle, so he can be more of the mauler, the run behind him. They need O line help regardless, so they could use him like at guard or wherever. So I like this pick. He might go earlier, to be honest, but Darnell Wright at 19 to the Bucks. So I like this pick. So I'm gonna have another trade here, and I didn't look at the trade value chart. I'm not too big into that, so this might look odd. And PFN, there's no way you can like override decline trades, but this is a pick that I've wanted to do for a while, and I finally found a way to do it. So the Seahawks are going to trade. Okay, don't go to my Epson printer. Okay, sorry about that. That I might put a jump cut in there because I don't want that in. So okay, sorry. That was awkward. That might be an odd cut in the video. So anyway, hold up, sorry. Okay, this is a disaster. Okay, anyway, we're back to the action. So this is a trade I wanted to do for a while. At 20, I'm gonna have the Seahawks trade down because they like to trade down a lot. They're gonna trade with the Steelers, and they're gonna give up 20 and 151, which is a Steelers pick. I forgot how the Steelers gave it to them. In return, they're gonna get the 32 this year, a third next year, and then they're gonna move up to the fourth round this year. I think this is good value because the Steelers get more picks. Wait, and actually, no, they don't get more picks, but they move up for someone that I think fits what they want to do, or it'll fit with them. I think it's good value because the Seahawks move down to 32, which is out of the first round, but they get a third next year. They move up an entire round in the fourth. I think after the fourth, that's when the talent cuts off. That's like the final round for me. You can find starters most often. So they just basically give up a fifth to move up to the fourth. So this will get accepted because I've mocked this before. At 20, the Steelers are going to take Jordan Addison. I'm a fan of college quarterbacks reuniting with college receivers because the connection's already there. We saw that with Jamar Chase. I love the Jamar Chase, the Cincinnati pick. Yeah, they needed O lineman, but I don't think anyone's complaining. Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett both put up award-winning numbers together at Pitt last year. Jordan Addison won the Biletnikoff. Kenny Pickett was a Heisman finalist. And some people might say the Steelers don't need this because they have George Pickens, who was a beast down the stretch. But Deontay Johnson, I don't think he's in the Steelers' future. I think he'll leave after this year. And then the guy that I think he might have gotten injured. The guy, this really small receiver, I totally forgot his name. I think they wanted him to be the slot guy, but Jordan Addison's a first round talented player. So, and I think receivers should go earlier. Even if he's like an 1,000-yard receiver only, isn't like an all pro. I like this pick. I think he'll be what um brain freezing on the name. Kenny Pickett. I think he'll be Kenny Pickett's security blanket in the slot. He worked outside. He's a downfield threat. I think he's the ability to develop his route running because he's pretty shifty. He's not the biggest guy, so he might be slot only, but they have George Pickens on the outside. I think that the injuries kind of hampered him this year because he was balling at USC and the production declined when he got injured. Like they lost to Tulane. And even though they put up stats, they could have used Jordan Addison there. I like the pick. He's a good receiver. He might be my second overall receiver. So 20, I like the matchup. At 21, oh, another reason I think the Seahawks would trade with the Steelers here if they were to do this, because I think that the Chargers are looking for a downfield option. Jordan Addison fits that bill, and I don't know what the whole deal about Keenan Allen is, but regardless, Chargers still get a great offensive weapon. They're probably going to lose Austin Eckler because he said he wants out, and I haven't seen anything saying they're going to pay him. So they get Bijan. I don't think he's going to drop this far because he's maybe the most talented offensive player in the draft. You're getting an upgrade if you lose Austin Eckler. I think that this guy is super safe. I would be shocked if he busts too. Maybe he doesn't live up to the hype of like a perennial all pro, but I just think that this guy is so talented. Like, I think he could play receiver, to be honest. The only knock against him is I think he gets a little jump happy sometimes and he kind of slowed down at the end of Texas games. So maybe there's like a lack of clutch, but this guy's just so talented, man. I wish he could drop to the Cowboys, but I don't think that's going to happen. Great value here. Even if it's a running back. I think the whole running back argument about them not going in the first round stupid. If the guy's good, the guy's good. Okay. Even if it's only for 5 years. Number 22, the Ravens are going to take Zay Flowers. I've heard that they like him. Maybe that's smoke, but even if they have Odell, they need receiver help. Give Lamar Jackson all the help he needs because maybe you let him play on the franchise tag. And if he doesn't get it done with Zay Flowers, Odell, Rashad Bateman, and then like Mark Andrews and your running backs along with your O-line coming back, then you can maybe say, all right, he doesn't deserve to get paid. But the Ravens have not done a good job of drafting receivers throughout their history, in my opinion. That's the one position they're not good at finding, even though they're historically one of the better drafting teams. Receiver's not one of the positions. Get Zay Flowers, get a shifty guy. I like him after the catch. He might be slot only, but I've seen people higher on him than this spot, but you're not going to get him later. Go get a first round talented caliber receiver. I want to see if Lamar's the guy. And if Lamar doesn't play for them, get whoever the quarterback is another weapon. Okay. Good after the catch. 23, I'm going to have another trade. The Vikings need to get picks. I'm afraid that this is going to be the team that falls off the most next year. I've said that before. So I'm trying to remember. They'll give up the 23rd pick to the Chiefs, who will then give up. Let me go back to the trade chart. 122, which is like a middle of the fourth, and they'll give up 166, which is like a middle of the fifth. Maybe that's a bit too much, but the Vikings need picks, and the Chiefs kind of have a plethora of them. And the team won the Super Bowl. So, I mean, it's not like you need to attack that many positions, but they do need help on offense and skills because they lost Juju. Travis Kelce's getting up there in age. They have decent receivers, but get a guy who can study under Kelce. I think he's the most like Kelce. Dalton Kincaid, run 2 tight end sets. This guy's not going to block, at least at this point. He's not a good blocker. He's basically a supersized receiver. Same with Kelce. So, but the thing with the Chiefs is that their pass blocking O-line and their O-line in terms of pass blocking was like number 1. They've drafted super well. The O-line is going to be good next year. So I don't really think you necessarily need tight ends to help block. you're not compensating for anybody struggling. So get Dalton Kincaid. This guy has tremendous ball skills, route running. This guy just makes plays. The first time I saw him play, I was like, man, who's that guy? Because he's balling. I think he fits the modern tight end mold. And if Kelsey declines next year or the year after, you have his replacement. So get Kelsey 2.0 or Kelsey clone at 23 because I don't know if he's going to drop. So you're going to have to go up to get him. 24. This guy, I've had a hard time nailing this guy to a spot because I've seen some people like Dane Brugler have him really high, like top 10 to the Eagles. And then I've seen people like Brian Broaddus and others like maybe not be as high on him because I think he's a bit of a project, but the physical tools are there. And the Jags, I don't know if they necessarily need pass rush, but Caleb Von Chason has not lived up to the draft spot. They have Josh Allen. They took what's his name last year to kind of play like an outside inside role. I think Lucas Van Ness can do that too. So you could get super versatile in terms of like defensive looks and stuff. You could get really tricky with that stuff and stunts and who's going to be blitzing what gap. So get Lucas Van Ness. Maybe a bit of a project, not the safest player, but he's got the tools. He's raw. Him, I keep for Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen. There you go. And then the Fatsuki, whoever the defensive tackle is, that's a good D line. The Jags overachieved last year and they're trending in the right direction. They could go offense here, offensive lineman, but I think they could supplement that later. Get an edge player. I don't think he's going to drop here, so this is great value. 25, they could go receiver, but I think that the O-line needs help too. I don't know if they've here, let me do a quick look up online. I want to see what their O-line looks like. They need to go offense regardless, in my opinion. So it's going to be an offensive player. Shane LeMahieu, let's see what his PFF score was. It was a guard. I know a lot of people don't like PFF, but this is how I go off. Oh, he was terrible. Yeah, let's go O'Cyrus Torrence. I'm higher on this guy than most people. I've seen a lot of people say he's probably scheme specific or he's not going to be able to like go out into space because he's pretty big, but he's lost weight. He didn't let up a sack at Louisiana. Then he went to the SEC, didn't allow a sack there. I think he's shown the effort because he wanted to lose weight. This team needs O-line help because they've not hit necessarily well recently. The tackle out of Georgia, he was actually good last year, but Evan Neal struggled. So get a beefy guy next to Evan Neal. That'd be a massive right or left side of the O-line, regardless. I think they could go receiver, but I'm not necessarily a fan of the value here. A lot of round 2 receivers next, or a lot of round 2 receiver grades follow. So they need to go receiver in the next round. They got Darren Waller, so there's that. Help the offense out. Give Saquon Barkley a monster O-line to run behind. So O'Cyrus Torrence, you could go Steve Avila here too, but I'm a little higher on O'Cyrus Torrence. We're a little more familiar. I'm a Cowboys fan, so I think that this pick is going to be totally random. I don't think people are going to expect this, but I was reading Dan Brugler's thing, and I've seen other people say this too. This player might be better at safety. They didn't have him as a 30 visit, but the Cowboys have shown that 30 visits don't dictate that they'll draft 30 visits or draft them. So it's a guy that they talked at the combine, though. So they showed interest. Keely Ringo as a free safety on the Cowboys is a player or a position I like. I thought that Malik Hooker was good, but he's got one more year left. He was injury prone in the past, and you're going to have safeties leaving regardless. I don't want a cornerback on this team because I think that position's filled. But Keely Ringo's athleticism and straight line speed, I think, would lend really well to a free safety because I think he could hit. And the thing with him is he was not good in terms of dealing with like underneath stuff, like shifty. I don't want him in that role because I think he's a little tall. But if you can let him look at the quarterback, go one way, cover a downfield receiver, I think he's great in that position because there was a play against Cedric Tillman where he ran straight up the field with him, boxed him out, and picked the ball off. He played the ball phenomenally. It was textbook work. I don't think you want to get physical with this guy. And this guy is super speedy. I think he has a good skill set that lends to free safety. And then maybe you could try him at corner next year if you lose Stephon Gilmore. So I think at free safety, this guy would be a stud. Maybe not the best pick. Steve Avila might be better, but what the heck? We're less than a week out. And the thing is too, Will McDonald, I've seen that Dan Quinn's on him, so that definitely could be a pick. I don't want to go edge because I don't think that he would get. I think that'd be a depth pick because I don't. He's not beating out Micah and he's not beating out Demarcus. So I'm in win now mode. I want a first round player that's going to play right away. Keely Ringo at free safety, I think gives you the flexibility to cut Hooker or keep him as the second string. Maybe this is a bad pick, but I think he's got first round trades. At 27, I don't think Cowboys fans are going to like that pick, though. 27, I'm going to have them take Steve Avila, player that the Cowboys are high on. This team, they were snake bitten last year with injuries. I don't think last year was a good indicator, but of the talent the team has, but they haven't done a good job of protecting Josh Allen, in my opinion. They rely on him too much to run. I think he said something regarding like, I don't know if he said that he's feeling it now, but he's starting to recognize that he needs to be a quarterback more than like a football player quote. So get him help. The team has not been able to run the football diddly squat for the past few years. I think in part because I think the O-line's been underachieving for that talent level or that team's talent. Get a guard. I think this guy will be safe, be a stud potentially. Played well for a offense that was arguably the best in college. So I like this pick. I don't think he's going to drop here, but I've had a hard time putting him somewhere. Brian Branch to the Bengals would be a super value pick. Not the flashiest player, but they lost both of their safeties, which I was a Jesse Bates fan, even if he wasn't as good this year, because I love free safeties that can pick the ball off. That's the thing with Keely Ringo. The safeties that are valuable are the ones that can fly around, make it so you can't throw into tight windows because they're going to jump it. They can go downfield, defend, break up passes, tip them to the cornerbacks. I'm not as big of a fan of the strong safety because I think that's an easier spot to fill. You're just coming down and tackling people. The guys with ball skills and range are valuable. Brian Branch isn't necessarily that, but they also lost Von Bell. I think Daxton Hill is supposed to be their free safety type. So get another guy that can cover close to the line, can come tackle people. I think Brian Branch is overall a football player. I think he'll be safe. Nick Saban, DBs always turn out well in the NFL for the most part. Dax Hill, Brian Branch is a good way to build a new safety tandem. And they also versatile. You could play them both at cornerback, so you could have like 4 cornerbacks on the field at the same time. 21, I know he's a 30 visit for him. Jalen Hyatt, maybe a one-trick pony, but I think he could play off Chris Olave well because I think Chris Olave is more than a deep threat. I think Jalen Hyatt's safe for a deep threat because he had production to back up his identity. It wasn't just 400 yards downfield. People like it wasn't like Jalen Reagor where people were saying, "Oh, his quarterback was bad. He's got good potential." Turned out to be bad. Jalen Hyatt destroyed some of the highest levels of competition and specifically Alabama. But you also don't know if Michael Thomas is going to be the guy for you can't bank on him staying healthy. So you'll need Chris Olave to have a running mate if he gets injured. I looked at defensive places like D-line, but I think that the defense overall is strong. So go get a receiver. I don't think Eagles fans are going to like this pick either, but because they haven't taken a linebacker early. But Drew Sanders, if Drew Sanders and Myles Murphy are together, that is a lot of pass rush added to this team. I know people are going to be like, oh, Hassan Reddick is like the DPR. We don't need another guy. But Drew Sanders showed linebacker potential here. You lost Kazir White and you lost TJ Edwards. So you have no linebackers basically. Let Nakobe Dean be like the small guy, like the pass coverage guy. Let Lucas Van or Drew Sanders be the downhill tackler. You could also blitz him. Maybe this isn't a great pick because I'm looking at Drew Sanders more of a linebacker than like a DPR, a designated pass rusher. But I don't really see who else they could take here because the cornerback room I think is set. They need safeties, but there's no good safeties here. Brian Branch is the only one I'd take that at this point. So Drew Sanders, you need linebackers, and he can also pass rush. So I like that. Final pick of the draft. This is a Cowboy, or I've seen Cowboys media do this, so I'm just gonna copy it. What the heck? Hendon Hooker, you get the 5th-year option on him. I don't think that what's his name, Kirk Cousins, is in the cards for this team's future. Not necessarily because I think he's bad, but I think that this team's probably just fed up with him or the direction the team is. I think he gets a lot of unwarranted flack, but you know, you got to change something at a certain point. You let Hendon Hooker sit this year, learn behind a, great or a decent player. I think Kirk Cousins is a good player. I think he could win you a Super Bowl if the team's stacked. Let Hendon Hooker, maybe a guy with a little more upside, dual threat capability, learn behind him. More importantly, get the 5th-year option on a quarterback. There's that. So, yep, that's my draft. I don't know why it didn't end. I guess I accidentally hit second. So, yeah, leave in the comment section whether you like it, whether you don't like it. This might be my final mock set before the draft. Maybe I'll do like a 2-round, but I think this is good. This was more of my opinion versus what I think the teams are going to do. I know I said I didn't like that earlier, but whatever. I think this is more fun, to be honest. And I think it's pretty accurate too. With trades, it's hard to make an accurate mock because there's so many more probabilities when teams move around. Like there's hundreds of thousands. But I think that the trades make sense. Like with the Raiders, they needed. I do not want Jimmy G to be the starter because Josh McDaniels at that point is throwing in the towel unless he's got some job guaranteed security. Yeah, I think the fans of these teams will be happy watching this, but leave what you think in the comments. Be respectful, and hope y'all enjoy. Thanks for watching. Peace.